Hi, 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 hi.
I'll try to sound like a normal person.
As you're doing the robot motions.
I can't. As soon as you do a mic test, you're like, I don't know any words anymore or how to be a normal person.
But I would love to just dive in if that's all right.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay. First, thank you for taking the time to talk to me and then kind of, in a way, talk to our community. We would love to get to know you a little bit better. So I think the first question that I want to start off with is that this is not the first race you've won. I mean, you've ran, right? And the last time you ran, you lost by 183 votes. That was 2 years ago. 183 votes is nothing. It's such a small margin. And I want to ask you, because you're replicating that race again with the same opponent 2 years later in the same place. What made you decide to run again?
Yeah, I always tell people deciding to run a second time around was actually harder than the first time because you know what you're getting into. And campaigning is a grind. It's hard, it's continuing. But for me, last cycle, during the in-between election, we had Hurricane Helene come through my region, and it devastated this area. And I watched politician after politician posting pictures with passing out sandwiches and with chainsaws. And then a few weeks later, I called the different committees in Virginia that control funding and asked how many of these representatives had put in requests to get funding back to these regions so people could get back into their homes. And the answer was zero. None of them had put in any requests. And at the end of the day, we need somebody that's going to stand up for this region. Yeah. It's great that you're out there serving the people lunch and making sure that the trees are cut down. But at the end of the day, your job as a legislator is to fight for the community and make sure that people can get back in their homes. It wasn't until June of this year that people actually, almost 8 months later, that they got funding. And so people were displaced until then. So.
Oh my goodness. So that was like the moment where you're like, I need to run again.
Yes, absolutely. I was the moment I saw, I was like, I have to run. Somebody's got to stand up for our home.
All right. No, that's concrete.
Yeah.
That's right there. Yeah. So you, and because of that decision, right? Like I did a little bit of homework, and because I've read on your page, you've been out talking to people since April, since the beginning of this year, maybe even longer. Yeah. So what about that early start do you think is so important? Because a lot of the campaigns, they wait until maybe 2-3 months out from the election day to actually go talk to voters. Maybe they do like mailers a little before or whatever the case. But you're obviously not that. No. Yeah. So why? Why so early?
We've been on the ground officially since April, but I had been knocking back in January some too. And for me, getting on the ground earlier lets you have those earlier conversations. When you're talking to somebody 3 months out from the election, they're already starting to move to their sides. They're starting to hear the messaging from other people, but early on, you get those conversations where you're like, what issues are most important to you? And you build that connection where you can deep dive and have longer, you can spend 15 minutes or 20 minutes at a door or sitting in their living room, hearing their stories and connecting with them. Wow. And then that's how I built most of my messaging and my policies, is because I've heard directly from people that these are the things they're worried about. And you get to bring people along and they feel that, that they're heard. And that's been something that's so fundamental to who I am and how I've been campaigning, is I want to make sure people feel a little less alone and a lot more heard. And I think that's what we're missing, especially with what we're seeing in today's age. And so it's just part of my mission, is making sure people feel that too.
Yeah. So let's dive deeper then into the policies and the messaging, right? So maybe do you mind giving like a brief overview of Blacksburg, and not just Blacksburg, because your district is like encompassing a little bit of Blacksburg, but it goes deeper down south, right, into more rural Southwest Virginia. So give a brief overview to our listeners here about what that district is like, and then also what types of policies are people looking for that like they want to see you champion for them, that you're excited to champion for them. Yeah.
Well, so I do have a district in Southwest Virginia. It's in the Appalachian region of Virginia. I have all of Virginia Tech University, a major state university, and then the rest of my district is pretty rural. It goes down into rural Montgomery and rural parts of Roanoke, lots of mountains. And so it's both a district that is heavily influenced by college students, and then also a very rural area. And so in 2024, these are both two populations that Democrats did not do well with. And so I felt like a lot of my work this year was going to be about rebuilding that trust, and hearing those conversations and what people are really interested in, what they're looking for from their leadership. And what we found through all the doors and what we continually heard is that they're looking for people that are going to be less chaotic, that are going to deliver on the real problems that they're facing. And it just depends on what stage of life people are in and what those issues are. You know, if you're a young person, you want a good job, you want to be able to afford a home. It always surprises people from urban areas when I say in Appalachia, we actually have a housing affordability problem too, that people can't afford to rent or buy homes here, just like much of the rest of the country. And so that's a big one that we're hearing. Our electric bills are really high. You know, they want to make sure their schools are good, that they have access to health care, and not just having insurance, but being able to actually go to a doctor. Right now, if you need to see an OBGYN in Montgomery County, it's a year-long wait list.
Wow.
And so the closest is an hour drive to another specialist. And so that's kind of, you know, those are the things we're talking about, is making sure that we are delivering for the region.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and it didn't click to me the extent of it, because you hear like, you know, we should have more job opportunities and like make things more affordable. That's what people care right now. But it didn't click for me until I talked to a voter yesterday here in the region, and she was saying that like, yeah, rent needs to stop going up. And we started talking about the back and forth a little bit, and she was like, last month I paid $600 for my utilities. And that blew my mind.
Yeah.
That it could go that high.
Yeah, and it just keeps increasing. We've just had a steady increase, and then we just have, in Virginia, we have kind of a backwards way of we regulate our energy companies. And so one of the big things, this is very Virginia specific, is that our utility companies can donate to political candidates, and then those political candidates get to decide who sits on the boards that regulate these monopolies here.
Oh gosh.
And so for me, I don't take any money from these monopoly companies, but it causes the policies to sway more towards these electric utilities instead of the people we're representing.
Yeah, it's like a rotating door of back deals, and
it's great. When people in other states hear about it, they're like, what do you mean?
I'm right now, me.
Like, what? It's just a weird policy.
Oh, goodness. Okay, and that's something you're like, we should not have that.
Yes, that is definitely one of my top priorities. We've got to ban that practice.
Okay, all right, absolutely. And so it's really interesting because you outline, you know, rural voters and then students, which are, in my head, you know, they don't have a lot of overlap. But what the experiences that I'm hearing you say right now is that, like, people can't afford the things that they need, and they can't afford the things that they may even want. And that's an experience that is felt across the district, regardless of who you are and what your current life experience is. Yeah.
That's what we're hearing all over. I know, so I have one of the youngest districts in the state of Virginia because of the college population, and overall the ecosystem around a university is just younger normally. And so a lot of times other folks around the state, they're like, how do you reach these young people? And it's like, act like it's a mystical beast. I'm like, I just show up where they are, and I ask them questions and find out that a lot of what they care about is the same as what we care about, just more focused on their age range. You know, everybody wants a good job that they can afford to live, and so they're thinking about entry-level jobs because that's where they're headed. You know, things like that. You know. So.
Yeah. Maybe like sometimes we focus too much on like what label that we want to put people under that is associated with whatever issue we think applies to them, instead of just going out and ask.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And it's like one of the things I found in this district is the major polling companies around the nation, they don't know how to poll 18 to 22-year-olds. And so almost all those national polls you see don't include their viewpoints because they don't know how to reach them. They don't poll the same way the rest of the generations do. So you literally have to show up.
Yeah.
On their doorsteps.
100%. Like right there.
Like, I'm here, tell me.
Blacksburg, where I live.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Okay. So, so on the kind of like the other side of this, right? So, you're out there, you're talking to people. How do you take what you hear into messaging that might resonate? You know, because you're working with two different populations with like maybe very different needs, or even like current life experiences, or maybe how long they're going to stay in the district even. So, what type of messaging methods have you seen worked across these lines, intergenerational, cross party lines, cross class lines. Yeah, what have you seen?
I guess there's some messaging that works all across, and that's really just that you're going to be giving something for people to vote for and not just vote against. And I think that that's been critical, especially with what we're seeing federally, that people are just tired of having to vote against something and two choices that are bad. And so really telling people what you're going to do for them has been critical. And the way we reach people is different based off of where they are, while our message is unified in that we are doing something for them, fighting for their communities, their homes, making sure that they have what they need to succeed and thrive. The way we deliver that to each demographic is different. Some of that's TV, some of it's digital advertising, but a lot of it is door to door and meeting people where they are, being out in the community, making sure that they hear this message and that we don't expect them to come to us. That we come to them.
Okay, because what you're getting at then is what I'm hearing is actually not just about messaging. And this is for all of you listening, okay? Because messaging is important, but it's not the end all be all. What I'm hearing here is even more important, that's organizing.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that there's something about being here in this district, something about community being so rooted here, especially if you have people, over generations working the land, being here. And I've gotten conversations over the last couple of days where people are like, yeah, I was raised this way, but, I vote with my heart. I want to get to know the person. I want to get to know the candidate before I make a decision. So it sounds like trust is huge.
It is.
Yeah, and you brought up trust just earlier when you're talking about I need to rebuild that with rural voters and young voters, right? So how do you organize? Like, what do you do?
Yeah. I mean, that is so true. That the biggest thing is that you have to rebuild this trust in the community, and we are doing that through organizing. When we talk about our field operation, we don't talk about how many doors we're going to hit. We talk about making sure you have good contacts and good communications with people. I know in 2024, we kept seeing these numbers from our presidential campaign. We're like, oh, we knocked 1 million doors. But the point of door knocking is not to be the U.S. Postal Service and dropping a literature at the door. We actually have a mail budget for that. So the point is to have a conversation with somebody, and that is how we're going to break through the disinformation and the things we're seeing, is by having that communication with somebody across party lines and meeting them where they're at. And that's what rebuilds it, because they can, when they meet you, they're like, oh wait, this person's just a former teacher who really likes this community, or oh, that's my neighbor knocking on the door. Oh, this that's how you're just going to be able to break through so much of there's no better word but BS that's happening right 100%. Now. It's like that human to human touch you can't pay some sort of number to break through that.
Yeah. So I think, because earlier when you were talking to our team of door knockers out there, right? You mentioned that this year's a little different for some reason. Like, people might be more willing to listen. People who might have voted for Trump or voted for along Republican lines last year are like, maybe I should try something different. Maybe I'm going to vote for you. Yeah. So how do you get to that point in a conversation? Like, what do you say where people are like, oh, you're more than just a Democrat, or you're more than just somebody who's like, on the side that I've been maybe said that I should hate, or like that I should be opposed in every circumstance, right? Yeah.
It starts with listening. That's the most important part, and not immediately shutting down somebody. I hear so often from especially people of my party that those people are voting against their interests or something along those lines. But oftentimes that's not how people feel in this region. They feel like neither party has their interests. And so you need to not immediately make assumptions when you're at the door. I had one woman who was really excited and loved Marjorie Taylor Greene. That was her big thing. And through our conversation, and I think a lot of my colleagues would have been like, okay, that's the end of this door, and walked away. But I was like, hearing her concerns, and she was really worried about safe drinking water and the clean air. And that was her big. And I was able to talk her back and be like, oh, we actually are in the same place. And we joked and we had a little bit of conversation, but I realized the commonality we had was that we both want clean water and clean air. And at the end of the conversation, she shouts as I'm walking away, my whole household's voting for you. And so, we had door after door where we're doing that. And I think the biggest thing is that you've got to listen to the full story and hear their concerns, because sometimes they're really rooted in real problems. And if you automatically say that person's not going to be for you, then you've counted that vote out before you even tried. So
absolutely. All right. So have you been getting a lot of volunteers for your campaign then? And then just like people going out there and then spreading that message?
Yeah, we have a big volunteer operation. That's one of the biggest differences between last cycle and this cycle. I mean, last cycle we had a very mighty but small force, but this year we have a large operation of people wanting to share that message. I think we came so close, and we've just haven't had good representation in Southwest Virginia in so long that people are really eager to fight for something. And so we have a lot of volunteers that are out there carrying this message forward.
Yeah, and also we're out of state too, and I would imagine there's people coming in, as like you're gaining momentum and acknowledgement from like in the news and in other places. So what does it mean to you to have that kind of support behind your back this time around?
Yeah, it means the world. I think we're going to finally have some representation that matters and that's going to fight for my home. It's just so often in Virginia and in rural areas, I'd imagine across the nation, people are seeing this where they feel that you're in a rural community that you're left behind, that neither party has really been serving you. And so it really means a lot to see people coming here and wanting to fight for my community and fight for this region. I think that is how we are going to rebuild and come back from where we are in this world, is we got to figure out a way we're going to bring people together. And that means whether you're in the urban areas of your state or you're in the rural area, we got to take our message everywhere.
Right. And take organizing everywhere.
Or yes, exactly. Organizing is key.
Organizing is key. You can't replace airwaves and people. It's not interchangeable.
It's not. It's exactly. You have to have the people meeting you where they're at. So
that's right. Okay. All right. So I want to transition and kind of like wrap up into this next topic here, which is as you've been talking and I've been kind of reading through your materials. Does there seem to be like a hunger for like new types of leadership, maybe younger? Because this has been a question that America has been asking and trying to answer this entire year everywhere, right? Like what is like an incumbent versus someone who's going to bring fresh ideas? And like what is that innovation with the risk involved versus the safety of like moderation or maybe experience? So what has that kind of debate looked like in your district as you're running, as someone who is, I'm not going to say your actual age because I don't know it, but younger for sure. And you're running against the incumbent who maybe has like a long legacy or history of politics and being representation in this area.
I would say people are hungry for new leadership. And I always like to say people are ready for a new generation of leadership. And that doesn't necessarily mean younger. It means new ideas, ready for a new wave of doing things. We don't want the same old where we're voting against two bad ideas, like two bad people. Absolutely. And like who's the better of the two evils. They're ready for a new generation that's going to talk about what we're going to do for people and what we can provide, bringing us back to that hope aspect that maybe I don't remember as well as, and you probably don't either, but that everybody talks about when they talk about Obama.
Oh, I was a child.
I know, me too. And it's like, and that's the other thing is I don't think people in older generation, especially strong Democrats, are like, oh, we did this and oh wait, I'm like, well, we don't know. Like us, if you're under 35, you don't really remember that time, and so you've only grown up in this chaos, and so we need to see our leaders actually lead and bring in that new generation where we can have some of that hope and what the next stage looks like.
Yeah, so. It's like because it's like leading, because you're literally trying to tell a whole generation of people what things can be, because all they've known is this unpredictability and instability. Yes. Right? Like you and I, like our generations. And it's not necessarily that maybe previous leaders are bad leaders, although there are, whatever context or cases you want to put into that. But it's that, like, are they right for the now? Are they right for this current context? Yeah. And maybe what we're hearing is that, like, we can't keep doing what we've been doing. Right. It's not working. And the more we keep doing what we're doing, it's going to get worse.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, and just looking at, this is just a very small note, but like we haven't looked at the way we do taxing in Virginia since before I was born. Ooh. And so many of the people that have been elected for almost as long as I've been alive. And it's not that they're doing a particularly bad job or a great job. It's that we just need somebody that's going to open the books and look at how things are going. Where can we make improvements? Do I think we need to burn it all down and start over? No. But some things maybe. We might need to, but nobody's asking those questions. And so having fresh ideas and somebody that's going to look at it and figure out how we bring people together again. So
absolutely. And trying to keep it 100% real too, you know? It's not as if the worsening condition is like a natural disaster, like the erosion of soil or like, you know, rising sea levels or whatever. Like there's active forces that is making things worse. Yes. So it's also like, while we are just keeping doing what we're doing, maybe there are forces that are working on the other side to try to like make, you know, take away people's benefits and their support, and then actively making water less drinkable and air less clean. So I think that so much of this for our generation, but maybe trying to connect the dots for voters at doors, is that like, yeah, it's not a natural phenomenon that we see. Like,
and it doesn't have to be this way.
And it doesn't have to be this way.
And that's, you know, if you're under 35, you just think this is how it is.
Yeah.
And so we have a job to do as leaders, is to remind people that this is not where we have to be, and that everything where we're at is a choice. It was a choice to take away millions of Americans' health care. It was a choice to take away reproductive health care for all of the South, other than Virginia. Hopefully we get to keep that here in Virginia, depending on the selection.
That's what we're working for.
And so, you know, and that we can have a world where we don't have these things. And we have to remind people that that is possible. What is possible?
Absolutely. Damn, all right.
Yeah.
I wish I was in Virginia so I could vote for you.
I only need 183 of you and your friends.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you so much. And we're like, what, 8 days away?
8 days.
8 days away. Yeah, that's
so
a
crazy.
little insane. Yeah. I'm not going to ask you how you feel, because I feel like it's just like
anxiety. It's easy. Actually, it's an easy answer.
So grad student is going to do like performance art of like your internal emotions, and it's just going to be a lot of arms, a lot of like
rolling,
a lot of
flailing around. Imagine a dying animal.
No.
I'm just kidding.
And then you have everybody around you like, no, get up, it's okay.
It's okay. We can do it.
We can do it.
Because we can.
Yeah, we can. And we
must.
are. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Lily.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And thanks for your work and coming out here and all the work you've done across Virginia this year. I really appreciate it. It's going to take us all to get through this.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. 8 days to go. We're knocking on doors. Leave it all in the field.
That's right.
All right.
Leave right here in Virginia.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.